মোহাম্মদ শরীফুল ইসলাম। আমি একজন ইমাম। আমি ইমামতির সঙ্গে সঙ্গে আমার স্বপ্ন ছিল আমি আসলে শিশুদের নিয়ে কিছু করতে চাই, সমাজের কিছু করতে চাই। 2018 সালে সেই সুযোগটা পেয়ে যাই আমি। ওয়ার্ল্ড ভিশন কর্তৃক আয়োজিত শিশু উন্নয়ন প্রকল্প একটা সেমিনার হয়, সেই সেমিনারে আমি যোগ দিই। বাল্যবিবাহ সুফল কুফল সম্পর্কে আলোচনা হয়। এই আলোচনাগুলো আমি শোনার পর আমি এলাকাতে ছড়িয়ে ফেলি। যেমন মসজিদে বলেছি, খুতবায় বলেছি, ঈদুল আজহা ঈদুল ফিতরের মাঠে আমি এই সম্পর্কে আলোচনা করেছি, মায়েদের নিয়ে উঠোন বৈঠক করেছি। তারপরে আপনার বাজারে যেখানে সুযোগ পাই সেখানে আমি আলোচনা করি। 2018 সালের ফেব্রুয়ারি মাসের পর থেকে আর একটাও বাল্যবিবাহ নিজে পড়াই নাই। বাল্যবিবাহ আমার সামনে আসলে বা আমি জানতে পারলে সেটা প্রতিরোধ করে আমার পক্ষে সম্ভব না হলে চেয়ারম্যানকে ইনভলভ করি, চেয়ারম্যানের সাথে সহযোগিতা নিই, টিএনও স্যারের সহযোগিতা নিই এবং আমাকে টিএনও স্যার, থানা থেকে ওসি স্যার, চেয়ারম্যান, মেম্বার, এলাকার গণ্যমান্য লোক আমার ডাকে অনেকেই সাড়া দিয়েছে এবং বাল্যবিবাহ বেশ কয়েকটি ঠেকাইছি। বিবাহের অনুষ্ঠান শুরু এই মুহূর্তে 2টি আমি বিয়ে ঠেকাই এবং তারা দুইজন মেয়েই এখন বর্তমানে তারা স্কুলরত আছে। ইসলামী শরীয় মতেও বাল্যবিবাহ দেওয়া উচিত নয়। বাল্যবিবাহ আপনারা যদি আপনাদের মেয়েদের বা আপনাদের শিশুদের দেন, আমি বলতে চাই যে আপনি আপনার পরিবারটাকে সুরক্ষা দিতে পারবেন না। কারণ প্রত্যেকটি জিনিসের একটি ধারণ ক্ষমতা থাকে। আমার ধারণ ক্ষমতা হয়তো 40 কেজি জিনিস বহন করতে পারবো, কিন্তু আমাকে যদি 50 কেজি জিনিস দেয় তাহলে আমি বহন করা আমার পক্ষে যেমন সম্ভব নয়, ঠিক 18 বছরের পূর্বে যখন একটা শিশুর বিয়ে দেওয়া হয় তখন ওই শিশুটার মা অর্থাৎ গর্ভবতী হওয়ার ধারণ ক্ষমতা থাকে না। যে নিজের ভালো আমরা নিজে সবাই চাই, কিন্তু যে কাজটাতে আমাদের ক্ষতি, সমাজের ক্ষতি, পরিবারের ক্ষতি, দেশের ক্ষতি, ওই শিশুটার ক্ষতি, তাহলে আমরা কেন হাতে ধরে ক্ষতি করব? এই বাল্য বিবাহ প্রতিরোধ করার জন্য যেখানেই আমাকে ডাকবে, যেখানে আমাকে বলার সুযোগ দিবে বা বলতে আমি সুযোগ পাবো, আমি সেখানেই বলবো। আমি সার্বক্ষণিক চেষ্টা করি এবং করব।
Hello everyone, I'm Daisy, 15 years old. I'm child leader from Timor-Leste in the Pacific. It is a pleasure for me to be part of this important event. I'm very happy to meet and get to know my friends and other child delegates from across Asia Pacific countries that come together to sharing, express the perspective, talk about child well-being, specifically early child marriage issue. On behalf of Children and Young People Delegation, I would like to benvindu or welcome all of you to this webinar, and I do hope that every one of you enjoy and for sure your contribution, opinion, recommendation. Talk are highly required in order to contribute to the improvement of the well-being of children in our beloved Asia Pacific region. Every one of us on this meeting has a specific role to raise our talk and concern as well as our commitment to take into action. Let's begin. What do we know about child marriage? We know that child marriage robs children of their dreams. Child marriage denies children the opportunity to reach their full potential. Based on studies done by UNICEF globally, up to 10 million more girls the next decade are risk of child marriage as a result of the pandemic. Especially, which will be coming from our region, Asia. The pandemic increased the risk of vulnerable girls to be forced to early marriage. We also know that child marriage is a complex issue that required a strategic collaboration among different stakeholders. There are effective solutions on ending child marriage, and this has to be scaled up. Over the past decade, the proportion of young women globally who were married as children decreased by 15%. But the pandemic is threatening this progress. What have we seen as effective? One is empowering women and girls as key decision makers and agents of change achieve long-lasting results. On the other hand, education enables children to break the cycle of child marriage. Also very important, engaging men and boys provides community and household level support structures for girls to say no to child marriage. Lastly, that leader role and innovation are critical and proven effective for long-term cultural and social norm change. I would like to remind all of us that this webinar is for ASEAN leaders. We are blessed to have our faith leader as today, and of course, all the stakeholders include our Orvision staff all over the world. Today is a remarkable and important day where each of us are connected to improve our intervention efforts, good practices to ending child marriage, and I believe that positive energy and commitment that we all have will bring together fruitful results and hope and brightness future for all children in Asia Pacific region. To keep us all safe in this webinar, I will hand over to Anita for the reminders. So Anita, over to you.
Thank you so much, Steffi. Hello, my name is Anita. I'm 19 years old and I'm from the Solomon Islands. I will take us through the housekeeping agreements and prayer. It is very important that we keep everyone safe while having this webinar so we can enjoy and learn as much as possible. Please be reminded. Remember, first, keep all your information confidential. Do not share your full name, full location, and contact details online with anyone here. Second, do not entertain friend requests, direct message from people you don't know. Note, there will be no further communication about this event from World Vision. Third, always respect other people's view. We do not allow use of inappropriate words. Fourth, page admin will delete inappropriate comment in the chat. Please note the following details for reporting any safeguarding related incident. Fifth, if at any given point you do not feel comfortable, please inform your adult companion, or you can reach out to the member of the child safeguarding team by sending message to Marian Lady Safeguardian WhatsApp on 977-984-183-0565. Skype TYTM_safeguarding and Facebook Messenger TYTM safeguarding. At this point, I would like to invite everyone for a short prayer. We will do this individually. I will flash on the screen some prayer items. I will also like to invite you to share your prayer item on the comment section. We will have a moment of silence for a minute. Please spend a minute to pray for our brothers and sisters, those who are affected by COVID-19, those who are affected by violence in the community at home, and also for our leaders to give strength to do what is right to protect children from child marriage and all form of violence. Now let us pray. Thank you, everyone. I think we can officially start our learning session, and I'll hand it over to you, Tefi, again.
Thank you so much, Anita. All right, to start our webinar, I'm grateful to introduce to all of you the regional leader of our vision is Asia, Manateri Ferrari. Manateri is a very passionate leader. We are very proud to have a strong woman leader. She is a mother who works hard for every child to enjoy the rights. She is one of our champions. So, Manateri, time is yours.
Thank you so much, Tefi. It's such a wonderful introduction. So on behalf of World Vision, I want to welcome all of you to today's webinar, Too Young to Marry. As a Christian organization dedicated to the well-being of all children, World Vision helps vulnerable girls and boys of all backgrounds overcome poverty and experience life in all its fullness. Currently, we work in 18 countries across Asia Pacific, reaching thousands of communities through 577 programs in some of the most difficult places in the region. Today, we are very fortunate and proud to have young leaders from 8 countries where we work. A big thank you to all the leaders and to any participants joining from Timor-Leste, Solomon Islands, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, India, and Laos. I also want to thank all the faith leaders and faith-based partners we have with us today. As trusted and respected members of the communities you serve, we recognize reducing harmful practices will not end without your guidance, support, and wisdom. And we are so grateful for your willingness to work with us. As Tefi has said, child marriage or early marriage is any marriage where at least one of the individuals is under the age of 18 at the time of the ceremony. And we consider it to be a forced marriage because a child cannot give free and open consent. We also know that child marriage typically ends a girl's education. It increases her likelihood of living in poverty. Child brides tend to give birth early and more frequently. And because of the nutritional needs of their own maturing bodies, they are more likely to experience complications of pregnancy and childbirth. Studies show there's a tendency for negative impacts on mental health as well, as the practice isolates girls from families and friends. And statistically, child brides, especially girls, are at higher risk for domestic violence. So child marriage denies a victim their rights to health, protection, education, and perpetuates the cycle of poverty. The negative impact is not only on the child, but on the national economy and social development as well. A recent study by the International Monetary Fund estimates that if we could eliminate child marriage, the long-term annual growth per capita GDP in emerging and developing countries would increase by 1.05%. We've had some successes. Between 2000 and 2017, child marriage decreased by 40% in Southern Asia. However, today, South Asia continues to have the largest number of child brides. An estimated 285 million individuals were wed before the age of 18, and it represents over 40% of the global burden. East Asia and the Pacific rank third, with 75 million child brides, representing 12% of the global burden. As Tefi mentioned, no big surprise that COVID-19 has made the situation worse. And UNICEF estimates that an additional 10 million more girls are at risk of child marriage. We've heard the same from some of the communities that we work in and from some 100 young leaders that we've spoke with a few months ago. They told us they've personally witnessed a significant increase in child marriage in their communities. Why child marriage happens is a complicated issue. There are many reasons. It can be due to cultural norms or traditional practices, or because the parents feel the child would be better protected or safer if the girl were to be married. If the parents feel they can't feed the child, marriage may seem like a reasonable option for them. Sometimes it's also because children can't access or don't have the right knowledge of reproductive health, or they don't have access to affordable quality education. All of these things contribute to perpetuating the cycle of child marriage. There is increasing evidence that a possible solution is increased access to quality education, especially secondary education. We've seen in one of our programs in Northern Laos that keeping girls in secondary school helps significantly reduce child marriage. With the support of donors in Taiwan, World Vision offers transitional scholarships from primary to secondary school. That's where most Laotian girls drop out. The scholarship has helped keep almost 100% of girls in secondary school over the past 2 years. And we know for every girl that completes her education and graduates, it's good for her, her family, and her country. That's just one small example. And I'm sure today we'll hear many more. We'll also hear about perspectives and challenges about this very important issue. So let's start with letting me introduce you to Ms. Alyssa Waheed, our keynote speaker. Ms. Waheed is a family psychologist, social movement and community development activist, and a journalist. In 2011, she founded the Gusardian Network in Indonesia, a civil society network for multiculturalism, democracy, and community empowerment, and she continues as the national director today. On top of all of that, she also was appointed to be the SDG ambassador by the Ministry of Planning and Development and sits on the Multi-Faith Advisory Council for the UN Interagency Force on Religion and Development. Ms. Waheed, it's truly an honor to have you with us today. I welcome you. Thank you.
Hi. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Terry, and everyone here, esteemed guests, and also the youth champions that has already kickstart the meeting with such a spirit. And first of all, I would like to check whether my voice is clear enough for you. Okay, great. I'm really sorry I missed the introduction. And can I test my sharing? Is the screen share clear enough? Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, let me start by expressing my my gratitude to World Vision International for inviting me to share with you my thoughts and my experiences in working in these issues. As Terry already mentioned, that I am a family psychologist. I work for currently as a psychologist. I work for the Family Welfare Agency of Nahdlatul Ulama. This is the biggest Muslim organization in Indonesia. We currently have this is a mass organization, so we have currently around 80 million members, 80 million Muslims affiliated with the organization. And I'm the General Secretary for the Family Welfare Agency Central Board. I was introduced as an activist for democracy and human rights. That's also another work that I'm doing. And from this sphere, I work with youth since 1991. About reproductive health, about youth development, all kinds of things. And that leads me, I founded the Gus Durian Network. It's following the passing away of my father, President Wahid, who has a large followers in Indonesia. And currently we're operating in 140 cities across Indonesia since we started in 2011. So out of these different roles that I'm taking, I was invited by the Minister of Religious Affairs to head a small expert group working on issues of family resilience within the Islamic perspective for the Muslims in Indonesia. As you might already know, in Indonesia we have around 220 million Muslims all over Indonesia. So working with the Muslims on the Muslims issues will of course impact Indonesia as a whole. So because of this work, I am currently involved in different dimensions of family resilience, and of course, part of that is the child marriage issue that we're facing in Indonesia. For me, ending child marriage is not about her, especially not about the boys, not about the girls, but it's about us and for us. So it's for me, it's imperative not to see child marriage as a problem for the girls, but it's a problem for us, for all of us. In Indonesia, before pandemics, we have the statistic. Indonesia is facing an uphill battle on tackling the issue of child marriage. This is the numbers from 2020 surveys, central survey by the government. 1 out of 9 girls marry before 18 years old in Indonesia. 1 out of 9. After so much has been done and tried, we still have this number. So approximately we have 1,220,000 women married before their 18th birthday, and they got pregnant directly. And so we have a low level of human development index, because what can we expect if the mothers are still children themselves? They're not yet ready to become an adult. They're in the process of becoming an adult, a mature adult, a responsible adult. And it is not in our place to give them the burden of nurturing other souls, other persons, even though it's her children, their children. Still not for them to tackle that difficult work, that difficult task and role. So with this number, Indonesia is within the 10 countries with absolute prevalence of child marriage. It should not be marriage, but child marriage. So this is the situation in Indonesia. From 2008 to 2009 to 2018, we were only able to decrease the numbers, the prevalence 3.5% from 14.7 to 11.2. But if you look closely within the years, you would see that this is like a dance. You went several levels down, and then you went up again, and then you went down, and then you go up again. And this is what we're facing in Indonesia. We have not yet have the most effective formula. We are still grappling. We are still trying to find the most effective work, because the curve is not it's we have not been controlling the curve yet. This is like a one step forward, one step progress, and then two steps back, and back and forth, back and forth. We still have many provinces that has an increase, not only lower decrease than the national level, but an increase in child marriage. 5 provinces, and these 5 provinces are still grappling with this problem. And why? What is happening? Why we cannot decrease decrease the numbers consistently? What are we facing? And we are still grappling with that, and come the pandemic, and this is the statistic for the numbers of requests for marriage dispensation license in Indonesia. The law limit the age of marriage to 19 years old. It was 16 for girls, 18 for boys before 2019, but we were successful in increasing that the age limit to 19 years old. And with that ruling of the Constitutional Court and the new law, we were still trying to find better ways, better strategies, because we know that age limit, lawful age limit, is really important, but it's not going to be the only challenge for Indonesia. Within the pandemics, the situation got worse. In 2019, we have 23,700 dispensation. So if girls and boys under the age of 19, they wish to get married, they still need to get the license, special license from the from court to be able to get married. Usually, the court would grant if grant the license if the couple are pregnant. So to avoid problems concerning the certificate of the child, usually the court would give the license. But in 2020, because of the pandemics, the numbers rose to 34,000, from 23,700 to 34,000, and 97% of the requests were granted in 2020. So this is a very big challenge for the Indonesian government and the Indonesian community right now. Reasons put forward for the dispensation are economic reasons, because we know that the pandemics impacted especially the most vulnerable groups in community, that is the people working in informal sectors, relying on daily incomes from selling things, from working as street vendors, working in works like ojek driver, motorcycle drivers, or taxi drivers, all those kind of informal work. And because of the pandemics, we of course asked the people to stay at home, and then also because of lack of customers, then of course, even if they force themselves to go out and work, they would not still meet their daily needs. And because of that, the economic situations has been dire for many families in Indonesia. My organization, Gus Durian Network, we open centers in 70 cities across Indonesia, distributing basic packages, because we know that the pandemic's not only impacting the health of the community, but also the economic situations of the people. So the economic reasons are mostly the biggest reason for this young couple to get married. And in this context, I would like to stress the differences in perspective given to boys and girls within the family. So whenever there is some problems, some challenges, economic challenges within the families usually look at the boys differently. They would be asked to work, to add income to the whole family. But for girls, it would be to marry them. Girls are not supposed to work. Girls are not supposed to be given extra skills, because they would be married soon. They would get married soon. So this perspective is really important if we want to tackle this problem, to tackle the child marriage problem in a more effective way. For economic reasons, families marry their girls, but they upgrade the skills of the boys so that the boys can have a bigger income. The second reason is unplanned pregnancy, teen pregnancy. In Indonesia, this is like the most disgraceful situations for many families are the pregnancy of the teens, and they would be forced to marry because of their pregnancy. And even if they're not yet pregnant, many families, many community, they marry their children sooner to avoid adultery, because it is sinful. And this is the most challenging reason for us is these teens, when they applied for the dispensation license, they say it's because they're bored. They're bored because they have to take the school from home. They're not going to school. They're not going out of the house. They don't have enough money given by their parents, so they're bored. And that's good enough reason for them to get married. So I think we need to acknowledge that we have a bigger challenge than just traditions. We have a challenge of mental model. We have a challenge of mindsets, even for the teenagers themselves. So if we use the iceberg model to look at the situation closely, I use this model when I work with UNFPA to do a background study for the child marriage context in Indonesia, analysis in Indonesia. I found out that of course the phenomenon that we're facing is child marriage itself. But in Indonesia, the campaign of Nikah Muda, let's get married young, is really, really strong. and it is celebrated by celebrities in Indonesia, especially those coming from the religious communities. Let me show you. This is the hashtags of the campaign in Instagram. In Instagram, we have more than 1 million posts with hashtag nikah muda, get married young, nikah muda, getting married is easy, nikah muda, nikah kaya, get married young, and get rich, get rich, get married, and then get rich, young. So this campaign is really, 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 really strong in Indonesia. It's part of a bigger parcels on ultra conservatism, and in Gus Durian Network, because we're working on issues on democracy and intercultural, interfaith cooperations and freedom of religion and belief, we know that there is a steep rise on ultra-conservatism based on religious values. So religious ultra-conservatism, not ultra-nationalism, but ultra-conservatism in religious terms. And issues of children, family, and women, gender issues are actually instruments to cultivate ultra-conservatism themselves. So the campaign, there is this campaign, Indonesia Tanpa Pacaran, Indonesia Without Dating. That means you get married quickly, so you don't need dating because dating is sinful. This campaign is really strong in Indonesia, and that's why we see this dance, this one step forward and two steps back, because of the big campaign on early marriage. We're not only facing just traditions. This is a big campaign in Indonesia. And why is that? What are the patterns of behavior that support child marriage and this campaign, and also the celebrations of by celebrities getting married in their early adult life? So for the celebrities, it's early adult life, but they're campaigning for, getting married before 19. So what are the patterns of the behavior? What I found from my study is that the child marriage are condoned and even facilitated by parents, families, and communities. We have a challenge in teen pregnancies. We have trends in the massive campaign. And the system structure that leads to this is family educations, lack of family educations, especially for people starting their family life. For newlyweds, we have no family life education. We have no reproductive health, effective reproductive health educations. We also have a challenge in educations themselves. We know that girls are prone to left school before 15 years old in Indonesia. We have a challenge in the systematic and structural layer, the religious leaders and the religious communities themselves. We have the patriarchal society, we have the state regulations, and we have the state services that is actually not really effective enough to tackle this issue. By state regulations, as you might probably know, we are facing more and more Sharia law, Sharia bylaws and local regulations and instructions that put limit to girls and women in achieving their full potentials. And if we look at this situation clearly, we also need to learn about the mental models of the actors of the system and the structure that support that facilitate early marriage. From the religious perspective, child marriage is to prevent sins. This is the only way for you to prevent sins, is to get the children to get married sooner than later. From the traditional perspective, the mental models of the people we found in Indonesia, the argument is that we have generations who got married before 16 years old, and they're okay. We're okay. We're actually descendants of these people, and we're okay. There's nothing wrong with our grandparents. They're getting married while they were still really young. My grandmother was 14 when she was married, and she had my mother when she was 15. So the argument of the community on the tradition is that generations have done it, no problems at all. So there's no need to be worried about child marriage. About girls, unmarried girls are ashamed to family dignity. Nobody desired her. So we have to make sure that our girls get married quickly, because it will, if not, then the family dignity would be jeopardized. And then community. At the community level, the biggest mental model is that girls need no education because they would be housewives anyway, who need educations to become housewives and parents. State actors, we face the challenge of the mental models of the state actors, that this is not a central issue, not like economy, not like the pandemics. And as state actors, we cannot violate traditions. And also, we have to get the support of the religious leaders in terms of politics. So that's why we cannot challenge the religious leaders. If they wish to support child marriage, then we have to follow them. These are all the challenges that we're facing in child marriage. My mentor, Professor Otto Scharmer from MIT Sloan School of Management, used to say that, yes, we do need strategies, we do need programs. But if our programs do not tackle the mental models that support the problem, then we would not be able to be successful in tackling the problems. So working on the mental models are really important. So what can we do? What should we do? I'm taking this from the 3R strategy by Susan Walsh. Susan Walsh said that for a sustainable change to happen, we need to have 3 dimensions working for us. The first one is the public policy. Of course, we need the public policy to prevent child marriage. And in Indonesia, we have been successful in increasing the age limit for the marriage. But because of the rise of ultra conservatism, there is also in Indonesia a campaign against the law that would say that it's more important to be able to get married according to religious law than the state law. It's okay if you cannot have the marriage certificate from the government, just as long as you are blessed by religious ceremony. It's enough. Then, when you have children, you can go apply for certification, because the government will give you certification anyway if you have children. The government wants every children to be protected, and they would grant you the isbat nikah. In Indonesia, we call it isbat nikah license, the late certification of marriage. So Yes, we do. We need public policy, but we also need to work on the theological framework. That's why it's important to work at the faith-based level, to work with religious leaders, to help them to understand the challenges, the impact, the problems that will arrive on our doorsteps if we have enough child marriage cases in our community. The third, the most important, of course, of the four for me is the resilience based, the change in the society, the change at the grassroots level, the change of behavior of the people. In this context, working on girls' empowerment, working for affirmative action to have girls continue their education, to facilitate teenagers to have family life education in preparation for their adulthood is really important. Working at the grassroots level is also really, really important. And for this one, we need to have more and more civil society organizations working with us, because civil society organizations are usually the ones advocating for the public policies, and also at the same time are the ones organizing public educations, assisting the youth, assisting the community in changing their perspective and their behaviors. So if we want to be successful, we need to work on these dimensions, all these four dimensions. We cannot only rely on the public policies or only working at the grassroots level trying to change the girls themselves is not enough if we don't have the support of the faith organizations and faith leaders. So this is the iceberg analysis and youth theory combined. If pardon the Indonesian words, this one I have already explained with this the iceberg model, and the youth process. If you have done the iceberg analysis, then to tackle the issue, we have to do the rethinking, the redesigning and reframing that we need to do to make sure and to be able to be successful in challenging the rise of ultra-conservatism, the rise of child marriage themselves. So the last one, the question about what can leaders do in this issue, in this context. I'm taking this framework by Professor David Alcott from New York University. He taught us in Gus Durian Network that for a campaign to happen, successful, sustainable change to happen, we need, Susan Walsh took it from the dimensions. These are all the aspects of a successful campaign. First, we should have the pressure for change. We should have a clear shared vision. The third one, we should have a capacity for change, and we should have actionable first step. Let's see if we cannot meet all. If we can't provide the public with the pressure for change, even though we have the three aspects, our initiative would become the bottom, would end up at the bottom of our box of things to do. So it's really important to build the campaign, to develop a campaign, to build the awareness that this needs to change. Child marriage should be eliminated 100% or 1000%. Without this pressure for change, we would have no urgency. The second one, if we have the pressure for change, if people believe that child marriage are a problem, but we don't have the clear shared vision, even though we have the capacity for change, we have the resources ready, we have the champions ready, we have the actionable first step, but we don't have a clear vision, then we would have a fast start that fizzles. Everybody work, but then it dies sooner because working with grassroots level is different from working with leaders. For leaders to have a strong endurance is easy, but for grassroots people, for mainstream public, it's imperative to have a clear shared vision to make sure that their stamina, their initiatives, their spirit are always high. The third one, if we have the pressure for change, people understand that we need to tackle this issue, child marriage issue, and then we have a clear shared vision, ending child marriage by blah, 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 for example, but we don't have the capacity for change. Of course, what we have is anxiety and frustration because we have the needs, we have the spirits, but we don't have the skills, we don't have the resources, we don't have the champions to propel us to the directions that we need to take. We would become anxious and frustrated, and this is what happens usually at the grassroots initiative. If they are not connected to a bigger network, then usually the capacity for change is not really that big, and then they would lose hope. They would feel that it's futile. What they want to do is futile, and become frustrated and abandon the cause. And the fourth, it's when we have the pressure for change to end child marriage, we have the clear shared vision, we have the capacity for change, we have the resources ready, but we don't have a sound strategy, we don't have an actionable first step, then that would lead us to haphazard efforts and false starts. that it's like it's like everyone is doing everything, but we're not moving forward. That's what we would have, and that would also lead to frustration, anxiety. That's why it's really important for us to be able to work to make sure that we have a good campaign to build the pressure for change. And then the campaign itself would mean that we need to communicate the clear shared vision so that we can get the buy-in from different stakeholders. And we also need our leaders. I'm so glad I see many youth leaders for working for this issue, because when you start working with the youth, then the capacity for change would be bigger and bigger. And we also need to provide the capacity building for these leaders. But if we always enlarge the capacity for change for the local leaders, for the religious leaders, for the religious communities, for the education system, ecosystem, for the teachers, for the youth leaders, for the ministries and national state agencies. And then if we have the grand strategy, sound strategy, an effective strategy that is actionable, then we can hope for a successful and sustainable change. So again, this is not just for the girls and for the boys. I'm really sorry. I think I'm losing my time here. Sorry. So I would end with this: respecting human dignity, fulfilling the basic rights of each and everyone in this world, progressing to the best of humanity have been our quest for our civilization. We improve our economy, our technology, our democratic institution in order to achieve that ideal. But unless we end child marriage, those dreams would still be elusive. Children should not shoulder the weight of being adult, managing this world and shaping the civilization. They are too young to marry. too young to be parents, too young to bear the burden of taking care of their families, let alone to build a better world. They are too young, and it's our collective responsibility to protect them, to nurture them, to prepare them until they are ready to take on their future. It's not about them, it's not about the children. Ending child marriage is about us. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia, for sharing the keynote with us. Vanakkam. This means greetings in Tamil, one of our native languages in Sri Lanka, and Jabjan Mahendra. It's an honor to be here with you today. You are going to enjoy the time we spent together this morning, afternoon, or evening, depending from where you are joining. Our next speaker is Malati. She is a native from Nepal who lives in Sidulpajok district. She is a young activist who enjoys public speaking and social service. Let us obtain some information about her story of hope through a video narrated by Maladi herself, followed by her address. With immense happiness, I now welcome you all to watch the video of a story of hope and listen to our young leader, Malati.
बाल विवाहको बारेमा मलाई त्यति धेरै जानकारी त थिएन हैन र जुन बेलामा चाहिँ मैले आफैले आफ्नो आँखा अगाडि मेरै दिदीको बिहे हुँदाखेरि पनि यो बाल बिहे हो भनेर मैले छुटाउन सकिरहेको थिइनँ। सिजेमा आबद्ध भएपछि मात्रै नै मलाई यो चाहिँ बाल विवाह हो है, यो नराम्रो हो भनेर त्यहाँबाट मात्रै मैले रियलाइज महसुस गर्न पाएँ। मेरो नाम मालती, घर सिन्धुपाल्चोक। म सिन्धु एफएम 102.8 मेगाहर्जमा प्राविधिक काम गर्छु प्लस न्युज रिपोर्टर। विशेष गरी कम्युनिटी जर्नलिस्टले चाहिँ समाजमा भएका विकृति विसङ्गतिहरूलाई न्यूनीकरणको लागि पहल गर्ने हो हैन। बाल विवाहलाई न्यूनीकरण गर्नको लागि सामुदायिक पत्रकारले के गर्न सक्छन् त्यो बारेमा ओरिएन्टेसन क्लास भएको थियो। त्यसमा चाहिँ हामीले समाजमा जुन बच्चाले बालबालिकाले बिहे गर्दैछन् उक्त बालबालिकाको लागि चाहिँ उसलाई किन गर्दैछ, कहाँ गर्दैछ, कसरी गर्दैछ त्यो बारेमा सुरुमा रिसर्च गर्यो। उसको आफ्नै कारणले हो भने उसलाई सम्झाउने, बुझाउने, नकारात्मक असरहरूको बारेमा भन्ने, अनि त्यसै गरी फ्यामिलीको कारणले हो भने फ्यामिलीलाई चाहिँ कानुनको बारेमा भन्ने, उसको भविष्यको बारेमा तपाईँले सोच्नुहोस् भन्ने सम्झाउने काम गर्यो। त्यसै गरी हामीले चाहिँ जनचेतनाको लागि सडक नाटक, रेडियो नाटकहरू प्रदर्शन गरेर पनि यो बाल विवाह रोक्नको लागि पहल गर्दै गयौँ। भूकम्प पश्चात यो चाइल्ड म्यारेज चाहिँ एकदमै हाई रूपमा गएको थियो। हामी चाहिँ सामुदायिक पत्रकारमा आबद्ध भएपछि चाहिँ मेलम्ची नगरपालिकाभित्रको चाहिँ 3वटा बिहेलाई चाहिँ हामीले रोक्नको लागि सफल भयौँ, जहाँ चाहिँ 16 वर्ष उमेरदेखि 19 वर्षसम्मको साथीहरू हुनुहुन्थ्यो। अनि त्यसमा चाहिँ एकजना साथी चाहिँ 21 वर्ष पुरा भइसकेपछि बिहे गर्नुभयो भने अर्को साथी एकजना टेलरिङ सिक्दै अनि गर्दै पनि हुनुहुन्छ, अनि एकजना साथी चाहिँ पढ्दै हुनुहुन्छ अहिले। म सोच्न नि सक्दैन थिएँ कि मेरो कुरा सुनेर त्यति धेरै परिवर्तन आउँछ भनेर हैन। धेरै नै खुसी लाग्छ कि कमसेकम मबाट पनि यो परिवर्तन सम्भव छ है। त्यसमा चाहिँ एकदमै महसुस गर्छु र आफैलाई गर्व पनि गर्छु। म जसले मलाई चाहिँ रेडियोप्रति यति धेरै लगाव राख्नको लागि हौसला दियो, सामुदायिक पत्रकार, त्यो पोस्टको ठाउँमा मेरो कर्तव्यको साथ म अहिले पनि छु हैन। सायद जुन प्रोग्राम लिएर आउने संस्था ओल्ड भिजनको समय सकियो होला, तर मेरो कर्तव्य कहिले सकिने छैन, किनकि म समाजकै एउटा आवाज हो जुन समाज परिवर्तनको लागि सदाबहार बगिरहने नदी जस्तै गरी मेरो आवाजद्वारा परिवर्तन खोजिरहनेछु। Namaste and hello from Nepal. I'm Malati, Sindhupalchok district of Nepal. I'm 20 years old. I'm working as a reporter and a radio program presenter. I was trained under Old Vision International. Then program Child Community Journalism after 2015 Nepal earthquake. I'm happy to be with you all today. I would like to thank Old Vision this opportunity. I was 14. I came to know about the campaign Against Child Marriage Nepali Jitau Bal Vivaha Rokau by Old Vision. This was the time after 2015 earthquake. I never realized would become an activist. There are several issues children face in Nepal. Girls like me face challenges starting within their family. Discrimination among girls and boys, for instance, is very common. In South Asia, Nepal is the third country after Bangladesh with highest number of child marriage. Many people are aware that child marriage is illegal, but many of the cases are still not reported. Child marriage is a deeply rooted harmful practice even in my community. I have seen that in the last few years the pattern of child marriage has changed. Few years back, fathers and mothers used to arrange marriage of their children. But nowadays, children fall in love when they are in school and get married themselves. They have no knowledge about its result. As an activist, put my efforts to save children in my community from any child marriage. My own family got my sister married when she was only 16. I couldn't do anything that time. I thought my effort would not be helpful. But now I realize one person can bring a big challenge. I believe people will support if we do good work. When I started working to ensure child rights, I worked closely with my school. I also become a member of school management committee. I started to raise the issue of child marriage. I provided counseling to my friends, brother and sister who dropped out of school. I saw that dropout and child marriage were high in middle and lower class families. I raised this problem to the school management committee. Also got support from some of my friends. We also talked to people in our communities. I also raised the issue in radio as I was a part of it with the support of Old Vision. By doing this, child marriage are less in our community now. A single person cannot end social problem like child marriage. Our society has many religions, culture, caste, education. I can see that diversity is an important avenue to engage, generate common understanding, and action against such harmful practices. I request all of us who are here in this program to make a promise to act against child marriage. In communities like ours, people take advice of religious leaders who feel religious leaders can play a very important role in science. If they tell people not to marry, people will not. Children can also talk to their friends to not marry in young age. Result of child marriage are not good and child marriage is illegal. Also, government officers should take this issue seriously. They can develop policies, plan and allocate enough budget plan for ending child marriage programs. Government can also monitor the situation and work to make communities child marriage free. I have a dream to make my community child marriage free. I believe my friends, family, relatives, government, religious leaders will support me and my mission. Thank you all.
Thank you, Malati. Now we will have 5-minute break, but you may opt to stay and play a game with me. I call this mystery box. What will happen is I will give you 2 or 3 clues explaining each item in this mystery box. After I finish explaining an item, you will have 15 seconds to guess what it is and type in the comment section. After the 15 seconds are done, I will reveal the mystery item through a picture. The participant who type in the correct answer first will be the winner. Alright then, let's start fun. Our first item. It is an animal. Second clue. The tail will swing when it sees humans and it is a very faithful pet animal. Can you guess it? Your time starts now. Yeah, you are correct. It's a dog. Moving to our next item. We can see this item on different shapes, different colors, different fragrance. Mostly, we use these for decorations. And bees collect honey from this item. Can you guess it? Let's find it. Thank you, Susil. You find the answer. Yeah, going to the next item. It is the most important thing for all the survival thing on earth, and it is a type of liquid. It is largely polluted by us in recent times. We must protect this item. Can you guess it? Hurry up. Congrats, Durga. You found the correct answer. Let's reveal the item. It's a water. Moving to the next item. These are the store of knowledge and wisdom, and it is called our best friend. Majority of us treat this item as our hobby. Can you guess it? Your time starts now. Great, Chilichan. You are correct. It's book. Yeah, go to the next item. It is invented by Charles Babbage, and also he is known as the father of this item. It was designed to reduce our workload. This moment also, most of us using this item. Find it. Your time starts now. Can you guess it? Congrats, Ugra. You find the correct answer. It's a computer or laptop. Finally, going to the last item. It is an important thing that we want to use must eat nowadays. It prevents us from many diseases which are spreading on air, and we wear this on our faces. Let's guess what is the item? Correct. Most of all you have get the correct answer. It's a mask or face mask. Thank you so much for your active participation. Now, let's continue with webinar. Over to you, Sagrita.
Hi, Bhavan friends. It means may you have long life in Sinhala, one of our native languages. I am Shagitra from sunny Sri Lanka. I am here to introduce Uncle Cherian Thomas. He is the regional leader at World Vision International, Asia and Pacific. He previously was the national director of World Vision India. Uncle Cherian will be the moderator for the panel discussion we are going to have now. So, I warmly welcome Uncle Cherian to take over as a moderator and introduce our very special panel who will participate in this talk show. Over to you, Uncle Cherian. Thank you.
So thank you for that very kind introduction. We have a panel discussion. We've heard this morning on some of the issues around child marriage, both from Terry in her opening remarks, from Alisa when she talked about models that we need to follow, reaching at the real root of the problem. And we also heard from Malti on what she has been doing with her community in Nepal. What we have in this panel is to again hear some more voices of both young leaders and not so young leaders. The two young leaders that are there in this panel are Koyal from India and Dola from Bangladesh. And the not so young leaders are Akmal Sharif, who is the convener for the Asia Pacific Faith-Based Coalition and also the National Director, CEO for the Islamic Relief Organization in Bangladesh. And we also have my colleague James Ginting, who is a National Director for World Vision International Nepal. I know we are running a little, we've been a little short of time, so I'll probably cut some of my questions. Each of the panelists has been requested to just limit their answer to 2 minutes. Okay, so we'll stick to that. So let me start with the young leaders, and I'll start with Dola from Bangladesh. Dola, as we have been hearing, that an additional 10 million girls, because of the pandemic, will be married before they reach the age of 18. And this is going to be fairly significant. It will add to the annual burden that we have of 12 million girls every year. And we know that, 23 girls every minute, every 3 seconds or every 2.6 seconds, a girl child below the age of 18 is getting married. So have you seen this in your community, particularly during the COVID pandemic? Have you seen this happen in your community?
Hi, Jen. Thank you for such a wonderful questions, and also I'm grateful to get chance to participate on this webinar. So, in our community and during this pandemic, the rate of child marriage has increased in our community, because when I went for the field work or when I searched for any kind of information in the Googles or any kind of social medias, there I have seen that people are giving child marriage because they are thinking that they are financially not stable. And besides it, there is a reporter saying that 30% of rate of child marriage has increased during the pandemic. So it's true that we are saying that during this pandemic, the rate of child marriage has increased in our community, in our country, and around the world. And I think that if you work together and if you can find out the solution, then we can end it, or we can finally say something that yes, child marriage is an end. But I think it's going to be a long-term process as well. But it's true that child marriage has increased during this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'll switch the same question to Koyal. Koyal, आपको unmute करना पड़ेगा. Thank you. आपके कम्युनिटी में भी आप देखा है ये ट्रेंड, ये कोविड पैंडेमिक शुरू होने के बाद कि चाइल्ड मैरिजेस का नंबर्स ज्यादा हो रहा है, और आप देखे हैं आपके इलाके में?
हाँ सर, मैं देखी हूँ हम लोग का इलाके में पहले तो सर चाइल्ड मैरिज बहुत होता था, फिर अभी लॉकडाउन है, सब कुछ बंद है लॉकडाउन का वजह से, तब भी सर चाइल्ड मैरिज बहुत ज़्यादा हो रही है। क्योंकि सर अभी गार्जियन सोचता है कि अभी अगर चाइल्ड मैरिज मतलब अभी अगर शादी दे देगा 18 साल का नीचे, तो वो लोग का सबसे ज़्यादा खर्चा कम होगा। जैसे कि पैंडल, घर में पैंडल नहीं करना पड़ेगा, उसका बाद कि घर में किसी को बुलाना नहीं पड़ेगा, इसलिए वो लोग खर्चा का डर से चोरी चुपके से वो लोग चाइल्ड मैरिज दे रहा है। और सर और एक बात मैं नोटिस की हूँ कि सर अभी तो लॉकडाउन है, ऑनलाइन क्लास हो रहा है, व्हाट्सएप क्लास, फिर फेसबुक मैसेंजर जो सब है, वो सब की वजह से सर आजकल लड़की लोग ऐसा करता है क्या, फेसबुक में अनजान लड़का से बात करने लगता है, अनजान लड़का से फ्रेंडशिप बना लेते हैं। जैसे मेरा फ्रेंड है, 2-3 फ्रेंड था, वो लोग ऐसा किया था कि अनजान लड़का से बात करने लगा, वो लोग जानता तक भी नहीं है वो लोग कहाँ से है नहीं है, वो लोग का डिटेल्स कुछ भी नहीं पता था, वो लोग के साथ भाग के शादी कर लेता था। तो ऐसे में सर मैं तो सर ऐसे में 8 चाइल्ड मैरिज रोकी हूँ। थैंक यू।
Thank you. So what Koel says is that she has already stopped about 8 child marriages. She has seen this increasing trend in the pandemic. And she also says that, look, there is a lot more of online chatting and online contact, which is unsupervised. And particularly one of the risks during the pandemic is increased online predators trying to target children. And so this is something that we certainly should be concerned about. And both of the young leaders that we have report that in their community, they are seeing increased instances of child marriage. So one of the very effective ways in which we can deal with it is when empowered girls themselves become agents. So Dola, can you tell us a story about how you, for instance, have been able to end child marriage in your community? Any story, or your story over the last few years?
Minutes we can explain a whole story that how we have stopped the child marriage, but I like to highlight on some points. Like we are talking about that during this pandemic the rate of child marriage had increased. So in this pandemic it was tough for me to move for cities or move for any kind of districts in our country, because it takes more than 2 or 3 days. So few days ago, maybe it was in last 2 months ago, I have got a call from my friends who lives in a remote area in Bangladesh, and it's so much far from my district. It's take more than 1 or 2 days to go to the place. So when I talked to my friend, she was saying like that, I don't know what should I do. Just guide me, and I will take the actions. So at that moment, I was thinking that what can I do. So I have told her that you can call on a national helpline, because in Bangladesh for child marriage we have a national helpline which is called 1098. So I told her to call on that number, then they will connect you with the local government or local police station. So when she called there, she got connected with the local police station, and I have talked also with the police and tell to the police that we are like fighting against of child marriage and we have to do lots of work, because since 2018 to 2019 we are able to stop 600 child marriages in Bangladesh. So it's not a new case for us. So if you can, please help us with your all collaborations. So then the police went to the venue, they talked with the families, but it as well as a normally their family don't want to hear us, and they were thinking like we are children, what we can do. And also they're questioning us like that, if today my girl get a victim of sexual violence or any kind of violence, then who will take the responsibility? Do you take the responsibilities? And I was saying like that, how you can give the guarantee that if your girls get married, then she will be not a victim of sexual violence or any kind of violence. Then
In the home.
mom like just shut down. Oh my god, what the girl is saying. I was just talking with over the phones. So finally when the police saw tell about lots of laws and every kind of punishments, then successfully stopped the child marriage, and right now the girl is happy and she's studying about her own subjects. So this is what we can right now are doing. So this is how we stop a child marriage, through the over phones or motivating or changing the mindsets, and that's very important to end child marriage.
Thank you. That is such an inspiring story to know that you can use the existing child protection mechanisms, using the what we call 1098 number or 1098 number to effectively stop a particular incident very recently. And we are really so thrilled to hear that you have all, as a group, been able to stop 600 child marriages over the last few years. And that's really such an amazing and inspiring story. And even in your own words, we have seen so many obstacles, even when you are making a complaint, and sometimes from the girls' parents themselves challenging you, and getting at asking questions which are really at the root of the problem, which Alisa described in her presentation as well. That is it is in one sense to protect them from any sexual exploitation or violence, but we don't know, they get into a situation where they probably get exploited more than otherwise, and that's so important and relevant. I'll just pass on the next question to Koyal and ask her that, since she has also been so actively engaged with her community, आपने क्या मुसीबतें, किस तरह के चैलेंजेस फेस किए हैं जब आप लोग ये रोकना चाहते हैं, जब चाइल्ड मैरिज रोकना चाहते हैं? When you're trying to end child marriage, what are some of the difficulties and challenges that you have personally encountered? Some stories on that?
सर, जब हम लोग पहले जाते थे कोई भी चाइल्ड मैरिज रोकने के लिए, तो सर ऐसा होता था कि वो लोग बच्चा समझ के हम लोग को बहुत धमकी देता है, और सर सबसे डिफिकल्ट बात हो जाता है कि जो रात को इन्फॉर्म मिलता है हम लोगों को कहीं पर भी चाइल्ड मैरिज होने से, रात को जाने से हम लोग को बहुत ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम हो जाती है। फिर सर जब हम लोग चाइल्ड मैरिज रोकने जाते तो
what Koyal is saying is that because they are young, मैं translate कर रहा हूँ बाकी लोगों के लिए. So what she says is that because they are very young, they are threatened very easily, and also it's very difficult to deal with the problem when it's late in the evening hours. Carry on, Koyal.
फिर सर जब हम लोग जाते हैं चाइल्ड मैरिज रोकने के लिए, तो हम लोग 1098 में कॉल करते हैं, तो हम लोग का गांव का पुलिस को इन्फॉर्म करते हैं, तो वो लोग जब नहीं आते तो हम लोग को थोड़ा चैलेंजेस, मतलब उस टाइम चैलेंजेस लगता है कि हम लोग क्या करें उस टाइम में अगर वो लोग आता तो हम लोगों के लिए बहुत अच्छा रहता, उस टाइम नहीं आ पाता तो हम लोगों को उस मतलब फैमिली के साथ फोकस करने थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है.
So she says the challenges are that sometimes when they call very late, the authorities do not come, or sometimes having to deal with the parents is also difficult for them. But so these are some of the problems that they face as they move along. But they've obviously been making their journey, and even within this short space, she was talking about how 8 child marriages have been stopped because of her. Let's turn the question over now to the older leaders in the group. And let me ask Akmal. I think one of the highlights of the presentation that Alisa made earlier was the fact that there is a need to engage religious leaders and faith-based organizations. You are, like World Vision, part of a faith-based organization, also the convener of the faith-based coalition for this part of the world. So involving faith leaders has always been successful. So just a couple of things that I'd like to ask you is, what are some of the good examples that you have seen? And also, how do you think, given changing times, how do you think you can continue to be more effective in the future? So this is really both your questions, rolled into one, 2 questions rolled into one, which we'd love to hear you answer.
Thank you, Cherry, and then thank you for having me here. These are very interesting questions. We can go into the example parts, and we have many examples where faith-based organizations has come together and they have worked, they have engaged. Let me start with the current forum where we are. This is one of the good examples also, where I guess this is the first time that all the major international faith-based organizations, most of them, I can say, not all, representing major faiths, World Vision, Islamic Relief, Agaratu, and also from Soka Gakkai, representing 3 dominant global faiths, Muslims, Christianity, and Buddhism, coming together and forging a coalition, building a coalition in Asia Pacific level, where we are sharing and learning from each other. And this itself is a kind of huge experience for all of us. And this is the first time we have done. This is a great example that how we as a faith-based actors and organizations who are working on humanitarian development issues coming together and addressing this critical issue. That's the first thing. Second thing, we have examples in the communities where we have tried to engage the faith leaders in Bangladesh. We have a close cooperation with, for example, with World Vision. We recently did a national event together where we have tried to look into the SDG, where gender-based violence was one of the critical, I think, aspect, where we had tried to learn from each other that how we can engage. And some of the leading faith-based organizations were there, national faith-based organizations were there. So not only talking about the gender issue, but also going beyond that and looking into the SDG, because in order to achieve the SDG, I think addressing the gender-based violence issue is also very critical, So this is another very interesting example we can give you. Islamic Leaf and World Vision has a close cooperation. We are working on the issue of child protection. Again, gender-based violence is there, which is called Channel of Hope, where we are training the religious leaders in the community, coming together and addressing this critical issue. These are some of the examples which comes to my mind. Second question, which is extremely critical and based out of the learning of the exercise which we are doing, coming together. There is, I will use the two words. One word which is called more kind of a transactional role of religious-based organizations or religious leaders to a transformative role. If we want to address the issue of child marriage, I think we have to go beyond this transactional role of religious-based leaders. What I mean by transactional role, that some of the transactional roles which the religious leaders do, which is more in terms of sermons, more in terms of doing religious practices and rituals, those religious practices and rituals, since it has been going on for long, and it is deep rooted into the tradition, those perpetuates gender-based violence also. What is important that we come out from that? It's not that some of the traditional roles or some of the transactional roles they should not play. That I'm not telling. But what is important that they should move from there and look into more a transformative agenda. And there, I think I go back to the discussion what Alice has said about gender-based violence. Issue of early marriage is a systemic issue also. Unless until we do not involve the religious leaders in building the discourses, changing the normal narratives, changing the dominant narratives which are deep rooted, we will not be able to solve the problem of gender-based violence. That's the first thing. Second thing, the entire debate about whenever we talk about involving the religious based organizations or faith-based organizations or actors, let's be very clear that there's always a debate about they versus us. What do you mean by they? They means the religious, the secular discourse, and us means the religious discourse. So I think organizations like World Vision, Islamic Relief, or ACT Alliance, I think here we can play extremely critical role to breach this gap. There I think the challenge lies. I think we need to look into, I think Islamic Relief as an organization, we are trying to do, World Vision is trying to do that, but that requires, I guess, more impetus, more discussions at each and every level. Thank you.
Thanks, Akmal. Thanks for bringing in those terms as well, that it is ultimately, it has to go beyond transactions, operational level issues and challenges. Sometimes stopping is good, but you can stop most when you deal with the root problems, the root causes, the structural issues that are there in every community. It's about attitudes, changing attitudes. And that then moves from transaction to transformative. And transformational then starts impacting much larger numbers and larger groups. It can result in sea changes in policy. It can result in sea changes in religious practices. It can probably help to redefine and reinterpret scriptures itself and redefine theology in these areas. In each of the faiths that we pursue. And I think that is so important. And also the point that you made of how faith-based organizations can be that very, very trusted bridge to enable that the larger world of civil society organizations can be partners with faith-based organizations, with governments, with others, as part of this journey, and particularly with faith-based organizations who have such a critical role to stop this. I think it's very important that organizations like us
let me add one more point,
are able
because
to do
which
that.
is important.
Yeah.
Let me add one more point, which is, I think, extremely critical, is that normally in the religious narratives, what you see that it's a very male-dominant narrative. What is important that, how our girls and women becomes faith literate
Yep.
and faith leaders. I
Yep.
think there, I think we need to invest more also.
A lot of
Unless
time.
then perhaps we will have the better interpretation and more balanced
Yep.
interpretation
Yep.
of faith
Yep.
will come.
Yep. So basically, any violence, therefore, against women, including child marriage, which is targeted really at young girls, all this will help if women are increasingly included in the whole religious discourse itself. I think thanks for bringing up that point as well. I think they're very, very valid points, and they are very useful insights for us even in our programming and going ahead. Let me just turn now to Nepal from Bangladesh and turn to Janice. We also know that Nepal, while in terms of the actual number and in terms of the total burden of child marriage, in terms of actual number, is smaller, much smaller than India and Bangladesh, which are among the highest, or rather the highest two in the world. The prevalence is pretty high. It's about 40% in Nepal. And so we would really love to hear from you, Janice, your thoughts on what World Vision has been doing since you've taken this up as your key campaign theme on ending child marriage. And what do you think are the critical elements that every child development and protection organization should have to end child marriage? So it's really two questions rolled into one. And I understand you want to share the screen, and so please go ahead and make your answer.
Thanks, Cherry. No need to do that. Thanks for the opportunity to share from Nepal. There are probably 4 specifics learning that we have learned in the past 2 years when running a ending child marriage campaign in Nepal. One is really to understand what is required by your partners to go alongside with you. So using what Alisa's mentioned earlier, I think building the shared vision is something that really require some effort. To give examples, we started working with the interfaith leaders in the past year, and what we've learned is that not just there's still a lack of platform for our faith leaders, interfaith leaders to share, but also lack of opportunity for them to share to each other. So what we've learning is to create a platform for these interfaith leaders to sharing from their own faith perspectives on what are some of the social beliefs or norms that are causing some of the issue of a child marriage, and building on that really to create them a community among each other to share that experience. So it's very early stage from sharing the vision, but also again building the capacity to do that. This part of the understand your partner is also how to work with a young leader, young people. So very inspiring to hear what Malati mentions, Dola and Koyal, and previously from other countries. So what we've been trying to support is to create this a platform for these young people to voice out their concern about child marriage. So we work with Community Radio Association, which has such expansive radio network in Nepal, and in the past 2 years, we've been able to collect over 30,000 voices of these young people on their aspirations and what they like to see. And this actually prompts some actions from other partners like local government, which lead me to the second learning, which is really being patient in such a long journey, especially with local government. So what has happened when we bring these voices of the young people to local government, there's a lot of a better understanding of a young people in Nepal, Cherian. We don't have lack of laws or regulation. We have quite a good of laws and commitment, but the issue actually in executions and implementing of that commitment. So what we've been working on is to develop support and also assist some local government to know how to run the campaign and them taking leadership. So some success is really, for example, in Sudur Pacham province, which is the western part of Nepal, where over 15 local government have committed over $1.6 million in the past 2 years to run campaign. For example, they run a campaign, I speak in Nepali like Sanaichu Patnadu, Balbichana Haina Patnadu, or I'm still young, let me study and not marry. So that's actually capture what the young people voice out through the radio or campaign, but also showing government commitment. Also very encouraging, very specific from Tikapur municipalities in province Tambasik, also in far western Nepal, is they run a campaign called Hamri Chori Pure Chon, which is our daughter, our lovely daughter. So they're actually now developing or implementing a policy that giving incentive for parents and young people, $10 per month per year from age 0 to 20 years old. So if they married after 20 years old, then they got this reward. So that's very encouraging. So it's important for us to understand that many local governments, yes, they have issue with resources, but actually they're lacking of the knowledge on how to. So that lead also me to the next lessons, Jerry. And the third one is really, I mentioned earlier, we believe that media still have a very powerful role, especially in Nepal, is really the community radio. So we've been working with the community of rural radio associations that giving a platform for young people and now increasingly for the faith leaders to share their thoughts and also used by the local government as a long-term view and partnership with them. And finally, Cherry, and I think what we've also learned, which is to some extent can worrying as well, what Alisa also mentioned, is the increasing role of social media, right? So what we've learned from our research with Kathmandu University last year, that when we talked to over 1,300 people, of which sharing that almost half of them married before age of 20, and which is what they call it a love affair or voluntary marriage. So we have to acknowledge it's not anymore economic factors or even social taboos, actually now voluntary. So how can we work and work alongside young people and other partners to address this issue? So to summarize, Cherian, I think just even using what Alisa mentioned, I think I really like the framework that she mentioned. I think it's not just building the set visions, but also building capacity. But most important, actually, how we can create a pressure for change. And this is really where I think we need to work alongside different partners. And I think World Vision in a very good position in Nepal, in other part of the world to build that. And I think our role, Cherian, is really as convener, really letting our partners to take lead and own this campaign and let them lead and us are working alongside them to make change happen.
Thanks, Janice. I think some very, very useful thoughts that you have brought in. It's not just about policies and laws. It's also in their enforcement, in their implementation, that the challenges. And because the problem is so large, everyone needs to come together. So it's not any more individual lone action. It's concerted action, coordinated action in partnership among civil society groups, across faith-based organizations, across faith leaders, the government. I think everyone coming together will really make a significant difference. And I really think that there's a sense of urgency in this, in terms of how we need to go ahead, and the role of media and especially social media is so really critical. My last question to both our young leaders, and I'll start with Koel. You know about the issue, you've heard these discussions. What would you want to tell young girls and boys like you? आप क्या बोलना चाहते हैं आपके दूसरे यंग बॉयज और गर्ल्स को? आप क्या बोलेंगे? आपका मैसेज क्या?
मैं ये बोलना चाहती हूँ, मेरे जैसे जितना लड़कियां, वो सब लड़की चाइल्ड मैरिज में वर्ल्ड विजन में वो लोग ऐड हो, वो लोग को भी पता चले क्या ये चाइल्ड मैरिज है, क्या इसमें ये चाइल्ड मैरिज करने से ये क्या होता है। फिर सर मैं ये मैसेज भी देना चाहती हूँ कि सर हम एक लड़की हो के बस एक लड़की का सुरक्षा बस एक लड़की नहीं कर सकता है। मैं चाहती हूँ मेरे जैसे जितना लड़का भी है लड़की भी है, वो लोग भी ये चाइल्ड मैरिज क्या है नहीं है ये सब के बारे जाने, ये सब के बारे पता चले, तो हम लोगों का गांव में या वर्ल्ड इंडिया में तो हम लोग चाइल्ड मैरिज रोक सकते हैं। सर मैं ये मैसेज देना चाहती हूँ कि मेरे जैसे जितना लड़की है, जितना लड़की का गार्जियन है, सबको यही मैसेज देना चाहती हूँ कि वो लोग लड़की का शादी जल्दी जल्दी ना कराए, जितना वो लोग का लाइफ बने, करियर बने, उसके बाद ही शादी कराना चाहिए। थैंक यू सर।
Thank you. So her message very succinctly, put together is that ultimately she's telling boys and girls, and she's telling the boys it's not just a girl's problem. You also need to be involved. Men need to be involved. Families need to be involved. Second is that there needs to be awareness, and she said that many girls need to know about this, and with organizations like World Vision and others come together and make this awareness happen. This awareness and this knowledge should be socialized across, and together girls should also take a very firm stand that they will only get married after they complete their education, after they are sure what they want to do in life with their skills and talents and gifts that they have, and only then should they get married. So thank you, Koel, and I'm sure that your message today is reaching so many people over social media itself. Last word, Dola. You started and now you're ending. You carried your bat through the innings.
So thank you. I want to say all the young leaders or boys or girls is that grow empathy on yourself, because we need empathy more than sympathy. So whenever we see that someone is a victim of child marriage, we just say, "Oh, you victim of child marriage is okay," but just realize that how much it's painful and how much it's harmful to the world or to the country or to your community. So it's my request to all of you, like, grow empathy on yourself, understand that what is the bad effect of child marriage, and realize and try to take actions from your own sides, that how we can stop or how we can analyze the problem. Because when we grow the empathy on ourselves, then we can go to the brightest world, not in the darkness world, because child marriage push a girl in the darkness side. We want a world which will be the brightest, and we want a world a child marriage free, because today's girl or today's children are the future of the world, and we will lead the world. So we want educated, a child marriage free world, and a social norms free world. Thank you.
Thank you. What an inspiring answer, and I think it's so important for all of us to hear from our young leaders and to hear what they have to say. And I'm sure that what you say will be increasingly practiced by not only those who hear it, but increasingly as many of us throw our influence and our weight and our time of ourselves personally and of our organizations behind the issue. I'm sure that this will have a much greater impact, and in a very urgent manner, it will have an impact in the years to come. Thank you. We are about 10 minutes over time. We've managed fairly well, considering that we started 25 minutes behind time. So we have some time for questions. We have a 10-minute schedule I think we can take, which we will use for questions, because it's only fair to hear from the participants, hear from the audience. And I obviously, because of the number of questions, we may not be able to take all of them, but we'll try and make sure that all the questions get answered. And when the notes from the seminar of the webinar are compiled, we would have the answers to the questions put through as well. So that's something that we certainly can do. So the first question, and this can be addressed both to the panel as well as to some of our earlier speakers. And this question is for Elisa, and I'll start with that. And this is a question from Mohammed Abu Hussein. And the question to Elisa is, what social behavior change model will work best in the way we sensitize illiterate guardians about the disadvantages of child marriage? So the question is about how does one behave awareness and conviction among parents and guardians who often are not literate, and they just sometimes take the words of others blindly or follow tradition blindly. What could you suggest? And short answers, 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you.
This is the biggest challenge is actually to work with people with lower level education, and also the in a communal society, because in the world we have the individual centric society, and then we also have the communal centric society. Like, for example, in Asia, the place of the societal norms are higher than the individual needs, the individual rights. Sometimes you will get the individual rights oppressed by the community norm. So this is the challenge, especially in working with lower level educated people, and that's why approaching them with public education is really important. Working with them with the words and language that they understand is really important, and also understanding the mental models. Again, I cannot stress enough that we need to really tackle the underlying assumption, the underlying mental model that these people have, giving them an appeal to not get married quickly, but not addressing it in a way that they that touch their personal values and their personal judgment would only lead us to unsuccessful attempts. And talking talking the language and also working, assisting with them is really important. That's from me, Pak Cherian.
Yeah, thank you so much. The next question is from Rupak Chand, and the question is for Koyal. When you face threats from others, how have you overcome them? Is there any example? जब किसी ने आपको धमकी दिया, जब आप लोग चाइल्ड मैरिज रोकने चाहते हैं, तो आपने कैसे वो पर्टिकुलर मुसीबत, हाउ हैव यू ओवरकम इट? आपने कैसे वो कोई पर्टिकुलर स्टोरी होगा तो
जब मैं चाइल्ड मैरिज मतलब रोकने गया था, तो हमको जब धमकी मिला था, तो हम लोग मिलके गर्ल्स पावर का जितना लड़की था, 26-27 लड़की कि हम लोग गए थे। जाने के बाद हम लोग गार्जियन को अच्छा से समझाए। समझाने के बाद जब वो लोग नहीं समझते तो हम लोग पुलिस को इन्फॉर्म करते हैं, 1098 में इन्फॉर्म करते हैं। तो वो लोग आने के बाद वो लोग भी बहुत अच्छा से समझाते हैं। समझाने के बाद ही वो लोग समझ जाता है, ज्यादातर गार्जियन समझ जाता है। और जैसे कोई गार्जियन है जैसे नहीं समझता है तो वो लोग एक्शन लेने लगता है, वो लोग उल्टा केस कर देता है। हम लोग बाहर जाने से हम लोग को धमकी देता है। फिर हम लोगों का गाँव में अगर NGO घुस जाता है तो वो लोग बोलने लगता है क्या NGO आ गया, NGO का वजह से लड़की लोग खराब हो जा रहा है। तो सर हम लोग बहुत समझाते हैं। कोई गार्जियन है तो समझ जाता है, कोई गार्जियन है तो नहीं समझता, तो वो लोग एक्शन लेने लगता है। तो वो लोग को अच्छा से पुलिस या 1098 में वो लोग सर लोग रहता है, वो लोग ही अच्छा से समझा देता है।
Thank you.
वीडियो
So what she says is that they use the power of persuasion and they use government authorities as much as they can to make sure that this works, and that's really how it is done. Dola, one question: is it a problem only for girls, or is it also a problem for boys? For boys, it's a double risk.
I guess it's problem for all of us, because Alisa says that child marriage is not for girls, not for boys, or not for children. It's all of us. It's matter for all of us. So how we can say that only girls? It's it's just a problem for girls. And being a girl, it's a little bit tough for fighting against it. Just as an example, a few days ago, when I was just posting all kinds of posters like of this just married camping on my Facebook or my social media. So there, one of my teacher, who is my college teacher, who teach me in my institution, so she put some kind of inappropriate comments. She was saying like that I am working against of Islam, I am doing some kind of inappropriate work, I am pushing the world in a darker side. So that's make me sometimes mentally broken. So I thought that if today I have overcome that, maybe I will give a beautiful word to my next generation. And that's my dream, because what kind of challenges I have faced right now, I don't want the next generation should face the same. So it's all about to work togetherness, because when we will fight together, then we can see a beautiful world. And beside this, it's important to ensure the main engagement in this child marriage. It's too much important basically.
Yeah, thank you. I know that we have already run out of time. We are 15 minutes over time already. So we would stop now. I know there are some very, very good and relevant questions. I would request Akmal and Janice if they could give us the answers to those questions, which we will then circulate across all the participants. So we won't take the time now to answer the questions, but thank you so much, panelists, and thank you, Ms. Wahid, for the very, very enlightening and very positive responses that you have given during your talk, as well as during the discussions and the question and answers. I'm really sorry that we've had to cut it short because of the fact that we really need to move quickly. So let me then hand over to our young leader from Laos, Silichan, who will take us through the next part of the program.
Thank you very much, Sharon and the panel. What an interesting Q&A section. It's great to learn from sharing and discussion with students and young delegates from many countries today. Let me introduce myself. I am Silichan Sipant, 17 years old, child delegate from Laos. I'm really happy to be a part of this event. Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Vincent Sopel for the closing remark. Dr. Vincent Sopel is the Director General of the South Asia Initiative to End Violence Against Children, and also one of the UNCRC committee members. Please welcome Dr. Vincent Sopel.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and also for pronouncing my name quite accurately, which is not always the situation. I'm so happy to be able to join this webinar. And I also escaped another meeting before this, just so that I can catch some of the interesting presentations, and I managed to catch half of Ms. Wahid's presentation and the exciting presentations from Koyal, Dola, and Malati, and of course the senior colleagues Akmal and Janice. I'm so happy that World Vision organized this webinar on the theme, on this theme, and I want to assure you that I'm not a stranger in this crowd. World Vision has so many of my friends, and when I'm with World Vision, it's almost like being in the family. So it's always very exciting. There are so many things I thought I should say, but everything I wanted to say has already been said. So I'm now wondering what I should focus on. But definitely, I think taking off where Chirian left after the two senior children mentioned, particularly on the need for creating a very convergent strategic partnership if we have to make a significant dent in terms of addressing or ending child marriage. That's where SIWOC comes in, I believe. SIWOC is a regional intergovernmental platform which has in its unique characteristics civil society, children, and the larger development partners clubbed within what is called the SACG, linked into its governance structure as well as its operational framework. And we have in the last in this last decade, we have spent significant amount of time and energy in showcasing and driving the child marriage movement. And SIWOC today has gone through 2 regional action plans. The recent regional action plan that is in operation was negotiated and endorsed in 2019 October during the SIWOC's 8th governing board meeting, which is actually a takeoff from the 2015 and 18 regional action plan, which was the first one that was negotiated. Now today, as part of the operationalization of the regional action plan, SIWOC has been able to work with so many different and important critical partners with which the whole movement for ending child marriage has been moved forward. And we have partnerships with the parliamentarian forums. We have partnerships with the national human rights mechanisms. We have partnerships with the Interfaith Network. And we also work very closely on this with the SACG. And SACG, by destiny now, has, over the last 10 years, has come one round circle. 2011, November, when the NSCG establishment was being negotiated in Maldives, World Vision was co-chairing the SACG. And it was during that time that SIWOC's interfaith partnership to work on ending violence against children was negotiated. And World Vision worked with SIWOC to actually create the SIWOC interfaith platform. And that SIWOC interfaith platform has today evolved into what is called the SIWOC think tank. And World Vision is actively supporting SIWOC Regional Secretariat to bring this discourse on child marriage and child sexual abuse and exploitation through the interfaith agenda. And I'm very happy to acknowledge that we benefit significantly in terms of this understanding. Now, as Chirian mentioned, the focus ultimately needs to shift from just the political and policy and legal frameworks to entrusting the responsibility of driving the movement down to the young champions. the young change makers. So, too young to marry as the theme of the webinar is extremely enticing. But I believe that it is not too young to understand, to learn, to get inspired, then to act, and then become change makers, change champions, like we have now in terms of some of our young colleagues who are here, Koel, Dola, and Malati, who most eloquently and passionately demonstrated how and in what way they have been making that significant change. And tragically, the COVID pandemic has largely offset some of the gains we have made till now. But it is also an opportunity for us to revisit, reflect, and to see how we can, using the learnings from the COVID pandemic, building on the learnings and strategies pre-COVID, we can then join hands, create that larger convergent platform, and try and focus on grounding our movement to the grassroots and to actual change makers, young people who actually needs to be at the center of this movement. And I'm happy that this webinar actually very clearly and succinctly demonstrates that. I'm happy also because today, besides SIVAC, I also have the privilege of being with the UNCRC committee as a member. And as you know, for the last nearly 6 weeks, we are having a very hectic online committee session. And every time we have country reports or country reviews, we have made a point to focus also on what that country is doing related to child marriage and the legal and policy gaps in terms of addressing child marriage and on involving and promoting child participation. And you also, some of you may be aware, I did share the link on 2nd June, the Global Strategic Advisory Group, the Child Monitoring Movement was launched, which actually is an effort to monitor the progress made in ending child marriage. And I'm one of the Strategic Advisory Group members, and I'm hoping that I will be able to represent South Asia and Asia, given that I'm the focal point for Asia in the committee, to bring voices of Asia to the global level and to ensure that Asian voices are heard and that impetus created by Asia, changes that are created by Asia, and the impact that is generated and learnings from Asia will influence the rest of the world. So before I am asked by Chiren or young Silly Chan to shut up, taking too much time, I want to make two small points. One is that today, as I mentioned before, the interfaith movement and partnership was created and led by World Vision, when World Vision was co-chairing the ACCG. Today, World Vision is chairing the ACCG, and I'm hopeful that we can continue to draw focus on this partnership so that we can, further reinforce some of the key underlinings that were made today in this webinar. I am also happy to acknowledge the presence of Akmal, my very good friend, through his Asia Pacific Forum. He has also been continuously providing guidance and support in terms of how and in what way we do things and what is important. And I also acknowledge the presence of our World Vision leadership in the different countries. They've all been very critical in terms of the work SIVAC has been doing and is able to do. And I'm hoping that we will continue to drive that agenda forward. And without wasting time by mentioning everybody's name, I want to acknowledge all the other friends who are linked in from World Vision and other organizations. I did manage to see Michael's name. Of course, Catherine is there, Kanishka is there. So I hope that I get to reach out to them in the coming days. I thank Catherine, as always, being so kind to bring things like this, important things to my attention, and also to making sure that I get involved in whatever little capacity I can. I really appreciate that. And I assure you, both World Vision and all the young friends and all others who are here, I'll do my best to do what I can, both from the SIVOC as well as the UNCRC platform, as well as other platforms that I'm on, in terms of making sure that we move this agenda forward collectively and with a clear vision and purpose. I thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vincent. Now, I'm going to welcome our young delegates from Indonesia, Refe, to make the closing remarks on behalf of young delegates. Welcome.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts in the forum. Perkawinan anak adalah pelanggaran dari hak anak.
Child marriage is a violence of child rights. The COVID-19, when the children is forced to parents while they have to enjoy their time to study and develop based on their age. The pandemic situation makes girls becomes the most vulnerable party. Many of our friends that forced to get married because of the social conditions that they have. This would not happen if they who should accompany us can assist us by giving educations or knowledge to us. Dear ladies and gentlemen, government has put a strict limit on the age for marriage, which is 19 years old here in Indonesia. But we need also information and assistance to help us from a bad influence, and those who are responsible to assist us can be more active and respond to all situations that disadvantage us. And the most important one is that how the government and all parties can help us to choose positive activities so we can avoid all the bad social conditions. On behalf of the Children Voice in South Sulawesi and North Maluku, we invite all parties to hand in hand to prevent child marriage. Let's stop child marriage for a better futures of our children. Thank you. Peace be upon you.
Before we end this event, I would like to encourage you all to do last activity together with me. I know most of you are posting a lot on your social media. Now, I would like to invite you to do something meaningful and use your voice in social media. Let's us do the global social action to promote ending child marriage. Okay. Please follow me the step of doing activities. Step 1, if you are wearing a ring, please remove it. Step 2, use a pen or a marker to add a line where a wedding ring goes. All right, this. Okay, slowly. All right, step 3, let's take a selfie now. Yes. Okay. And step 4, I would like to invite you all to share in your social media, something like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and etc. Don't forget, write in the caption, every minute 22 girls are married before age 18, like this. All right, that is my post. Okay, step 5, challenge your friends to do the end child marriage and take action by signing the petition at the link below. You can click the link below. All right. Or if you can click the link, you can search wwi.org/endchildmarriage. All right. That's finished. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for your time to participation and join us for event today. Last, I wish all of you and your family stay safe away from a pandemic of COVID-19, healthy, happiness, and with a wonderful day and stay safe. See you next time. Goodbye.